it over to you because I know you have more on this story.
That's right. Speaking of the Hassan case, some of the Fort Hood victims and their families are outraged at the way this case is being handled, and they're fighting to have the attack labeled as terrorism instead of workplace violence. Randy Kay explains what this means and what's at stake.
10 minutes. That's all it took for Major Nidal Hassan to kill 13 people and injure more than 30. November 5th, 2009, at Fort Hood Soldier Readiness Center. The chaos captured in this video obtained by ABC. Sergeant Sean Manning on Fox News.
I remember, him shooting as fast as he could possibly shoot.
Hassan fired more than 100 rounds from 2 pistols. Hours later, the president made this promise to the victims.
As Commander-in-Chief, there's no greater honor, but also no greater responsibility for me than to make sure that the extraordinary men and women in uniform are properly cared for.
Nearly 4 years later, survivors say they feel cast aside, and they still wonder how the U.S. government could label this workplace violence instead of combat-related terrorism. That designation means the victims have lower priority access to medical care and fewer financial benefits than those whose injuries are labeled combat-related. Army Specialist Logan Burnett was shot 3 times during the attack. He spoke to KXAS.
The day that came out was the day the government looked at every single one of the victims of the Fort Hood shooting and spit in our faces.
Sergeant Sean Manning has lost tens of thousands of dollars in benefits.
I was shot by a terrorist, and they don't want to call it an act of terrorism and deem my injuries combat-related. I think it's just ridiculous.
Civilian police officer Sergeant Kimberly Munley helped end the attack by shooting Major Hassan 4 times, honored for her bravery at the State of the Union a couple of months later. But now she tells ABC she feels betrayed by the president.
If I were to see him again, again, it's not about me, but I would just beg him to please take care of.
Why not classify the shooting at Fort Hood as a terrorist attack? The Department of Defense has said Hassan may not have been able to receive a fair trial had the U.S. indirectly declared him a terrorist, and it could have opened the door for an appeal. But an attorney representing 150 victims in a civil suit against the Department of Defense and the FBI disagrees. He says at the time the U.S. government was looking to close Guantanamo Bay Prison, home to hundreds of accused enemy combatants. So the idea of a terrorist attack by a U.S. soldier who is Muslim wasn't optimal. Witnesses say Hassan shouted, "God is great," in Arabic before opening fire. And Hassan has said he acted to help defend the Taliban. That, lawyers for the victims say, is proof of a terror attack. They also point to the FBI's disclosure that it had intercepted communications between Hassan and U.S.-born radical Muslim cleric Anwar al-Awlaki in Yemen. Meanwhile, Major Hassan, who has renounced his citizenship, is still on the military's payroll, being paid more than $300,000 since the shooting. The Army can't stop paying him unless he's found guilty. Randy Kay, CNN, New York.
So let's break this down, folks. The shooter still gets his salary while the victims get their benefits denied. So coming up next, we're going to talk to a lawyer for some of those victims and criminal defense attorney Darren Kavanoki. Is it fair that the admitted shooter gets all the resources he needs while they struggle to pay their own medical bills? Or is it just the same due process that all defendants get? We'll talk about that coming up.